Right, so yeah, very good effort in terms of having covered all the activities. As I said, just remember to explain as much as possible.
Okay.
That was something that I picked up on. And then look at the mark allocation. Make sure you write enough based on the mark allocation so you do get the full amount of marks.
Makes sense.
Perfect. Market research, the last bit that we had to cover in this chapter was the statistical measures that are formulas and calculations. They spoke about the cost effectiveness of market research. Okay, we know that if we're going to be conducting the research, we need to make sure that what we're spending money on is creating some sort of value. That's always important. So the cost effectiveness of market research is going to be looking at how much are we going to be spending on the research, and does the information justify the expense? That's what you're looking at.
Wait, so what's the heading, sorry?
It's just a small subheading under this, looking at, so for example, we had this accurate primary research. Remember we spoke about biases. Yeah. Okay, we don't want bias in the actual analysis. We want it to be objective. Something else that you can add here, cost effectiveness. Cost versus benefit.
Okay.
Right, then we need to look at interpretation of data, which is the next separate category altogether.
So we're not going to write under cost effectiveness?
You can just write on the word cost effectiveness, that's all. There's nothing else to write there because that's self-explanatory. Okay, cost effectiveness refers to something that is cost effective, meaning the amount that you're spending justifies the benefit. Alright, this is an important heading because I see there are some calculations here. Interpretation of data, brackets C maths/stats. Number one. Yes, interpretation of data. Yeah, there are quite a few. There's mean, there's median, there's those type of things.
Do you think I'll finish it?
No, you're probably going to have to squeeze it in if you do insert things, because you've got averages to put in, mode, mean, median, frequency, grouped frequency, range, interquartile ranges. That's it. You can put that in 8.
Yeah.
Right, number one, graphs. Example, line, pie, bar, etc., etc. The textbook's giving you some pictures, so you can have a look at that. That's a pie graph, that's a bar graph, that's a line graph. You have different types of graphs. You also get a histogram. Okay, histogram is where you have a continuation of data, but represented in bars. When looking at quantitative analysis, we need to measure things appropriately. So the first measure is mean, which is also called the average. Do you know how to calculate an average? How do we calculate an average?
Just put the total over the number of total.
100%, good. Yeah, so you add up everything in terms of the observations, and you divide it by the number of observations. You don't have to cover geometric mean. In the textbook, they only mention arithmetic mean. So arithmetic mean is what you just said. Take the total, divide it by the number of observations. Next is mode. Do you remember what mode is?
No, most, no?
Yes, most frequently occurring observation value. Four is median. Do you remember what that is?
The middle.
100%. Middle term? This requires ascending or descending order. So you have to order the data. That's important in order to find the median.
Yeah.
Okay, next point is frequency data. Number 5, frequency data. Frequency refers to how often something appears. So frequency here analyzes how often a value appears as an observation. Something to consider in terms of frequency. How often does something appear in the actual data set?
Yeah.
Grouped frequency data. That's another one that described here. Grouped frequency data is where you have a range where you're looking at, for example, categories. The textbook gave you ages, so 12 to 18, 19 to 26, and so on.
Yeah.
That's used to analyze data.
Mm-hmm.
That's frequency. Last one is range. Okay, 7 range. But range is split into 2 though. Normal range, we looked at highest minus lowest. So range, brackets, H minus L, or interquartile ranges. Interquartile ranges. And interquartile ranges looks at a percentage of the data. So for example, 25%, a quarter, interquartile. So interquartile means 25%, so 0, 25%, 50%, 75%, those would be the interquartile ranges. Okay, 25, 50, 75. Okay. This is looking at, okay, averages, that's fine, we've discussed that. Interquartile we've looked at. And that's the end. Okay, so let's do one example. I think the work program said do activity 17.8. Let's check. Market research. Data response, page 1 on page 250. There's it there. Okay, question 1. Okay, this is still theory though. Let's just see, let's find one where they ask you to calculate. Maybe this one, activity 17.8. Do you need to do that or no? Activity 15.4. No, it doesn't look like you have to. The only one you have to do is 15.4. I think they got the numbers wrong here. This is chapter 17, not chapter 15. Activity 15.4, that's from chapter 15. No, I think they're referring to 17.4. Here's 17.4. No, it's also not a calculation. Alright, so actually it looks like you probably don't have to do the workings then. Because they said in the work program, activity 15.4, which is actually chapter 15, Carlos plans a new restaurant. This Carlos.
Well,
yeah.
I guess we'll also
Carlos,
see that in
the exams.
papers,
Yeah, exactly. And then revision questions, page 249. Where's 249? Here's 249. See, this is all theory.
Yeah.
In data response, which is this, which is also theory. Okay, so actually don't worry about the mathematics then. I've just covered the theory relating to the maths. I don't think you actually need to look at it because it isn't outlined in the work program. We will see your past papers later, and then we'd have a better gauge in terms of how we actually need to structure the answers. Right, perfect. So that covers that chapter. Let's start with the next one, marketing mix. Here we're looking at product and price. That's all you're looking at in this particular chapter. There are other P's as well, as you mentioned before, but those aren't the ones that we're looking at here. So chapter 18 is primarily focused on those two topics, the product and the price, when looking at the marketing mix. Okay, so new page, new summary, new chapter. See, you like mind maps now, hey?
Yeah.
And you make nice mind maps, so it's really good.
Yes. This was product and price.
Yeah, we're only looking at 2 in this chapter, because the other 2 I think come up later on in the next chapter. Let's just double check. Yes. Okay, see chapter 19, then they talk about promotion in place. Yeah, so you're familiar with the 4 P's, which is good. The first 2 are in chapter 18. Product and price. So the first thing that they mention in the textbook in terms of this chapter is the 4 P's. What does the 4 P's relate to? The marketing mix. And why do they split it in terms of product and price and then promotion and place? Do you know why? The 2 are more internal and the other 2 are more external. So looking at product and price, internal, external? Internal. Right, do you agree as a business you determine what product you're going to sell?
Yeah.
And you determine what the price is going to be? Does that make sense? If I'm looking at promotion and place, that has an element that is outside the business. So slightly different to what we have currently, because product and price is generally inside the business, and that's why they've tried to differentiate between those 4. If you look at the textbook, they say consumers require the right product. This might be an existing product or a new product that can be developed. Point number 2, they talk about price. It is important to set the right price. If you sell the product too low, consumers are going to demand too much. You're not going to be able to sell them, you're not going to be able to meet the demand of the consumer, and you're going to be short of those products to sell. So let's make a note. NB, marketing mix, refers to the 4 P's. Product and price relate more to the internal decision making or management, let's just say that, the internal management of the business. And those are the first 2 that we're looking at. Don't worry about promotion in place, we'll cover it later. The textbook's giving you a definition. I know you like definitions, so you want to write this one down. It's quite short. Marketing mix, the 4 key decisions that must be taken in the effective marketing of a product. That's what they're giving you. Right, so why do we need the marketing mix? I'm just going to put a bracket next to the word marketing mix. Brackets encourages effective marketing. Right, marketing can be ineffective and marketing can be effective. We need to make sure that we're doing it correctly, that the marketing that we do is as effective as possible, meaning you generate the most benefit from the costs. Because as we said, it costs the company resources in order to operate, and marketing is part of the operations. Right, so the first P is product. If I'm dealing with the product, who are we going to have to analyze and interpret and understand?
The consumer.
Exactly. So the first point here in the textbook is talk about the role of the consumer. Why? Because this is dealing with the product. The product is going to be what the consumer is going to want or need, and that's the most important bit that the business needs to consider, because it's all about meeting those needs. So now, what must we analyze? What must we look at? Well, if I'm looking at the role of the consumer, they say some business analysts consider the 4P approach. The 4 C's have been proposed as an alternative view of the key elements of successful marketing. These can be summarized as follows. So the 4 C's, role of the consumer, 4 C's. Number 1, customer solution. So the only way we're going to get a product that's going to sell is if there's some form of solution. Does it solve the problem? Does it help the customer? The next is cost to the customer. How much does it cost the customer? If it's a premium brand, it'll have a premium price. Okay, if it's a basic everyday product, necessity, probably have a slightly lower price. So again, it depends on cost. How much are consumers going to have to pay for those items? Number 3, communication with the customer. That's also very important. If you're selling a product, that product needs to be communicated correctly to the potential buyer. And that's where the advertising comes into it. We need to give the right message about the right products. Last one, convenience to the customer. So some customers are willing to pay a premium. Why? Because it offers convenience. Saving time. That's very, very, very valuable to certain customers. So certain customers would be willing to pay more for a particular product that helps them to save time, to be more convenient. Right? As long as convenience is applicable, it's always a benefit. So with the 4 C's, we need to manage all of this. Do you agree?
Yeah.
And that's called CRM. Customer Relationship Management. And that's what they've described here in the textbook. So the textbook says marketing decisions will feature customer relationships management. Customer relations management is defined as using marketing activities to establish a successful client relationship so that existing clients are loyal and their loyalty will remain. That's the key. So CRM, the purpose of CRM is to develop loyalty, customer loyalty. Let's put the word in front. Customer loyalty. That's the first prize. If you have a customer that's loyal to the business, they would be purchasing through the business and that would support the business. So you need to keep the customer happy. You need to communicate with the customer. You need to provide a solution. It needs to be cost correctly and it needs to be convenient. But if you can cover those 4 C's, you have a product that's going to sell. If you're missing any one of those 4 C's or missing 2 or 3 of them, it's going to be more difficult to sell that product because that product isn't meeting the right needs and wants. Okay. Happy with that? Next point, marketing strategy. When you see the word strategy, what are you thinking about?
Plan.
100%. That's a good way of describing it. So the textbook here has a small example here about CRM. And they talk about customer information. They describe the 4 Ps: product, place,
This is
price,
still under
promotion.
product, eh?
Yeah, still looking at product, but we're changing focus slightly. So earlier we spoke about the 4 Cs related to the customer. Now they're talking about developing an effective long-term relationship. This comes from a marketing strategy. So how do you develop the relationship with the customer? Well, you need a plan. What is the plan going to cover? Can you think of some ideas? If you're marketing something to someone, what would you want to do to keep them interested in the product?
Stay in tune with trends and fashion.
Okay, trends and fashion. Let's see if I can put that into one of these categories. No, not quite. This is looking more at the strategy. So the trends and fashions wouldn't be strategic. Do you agree? That'll be more data that you would analyze.
Yeah.
What could you do with that information? That becomes more strategic.
So how are you going to advertise, where are you going to advertise?
That's better. Okay, now we're looking at strategy. There you go. Right, so the first one is targeted marketing. So if someone is going to be buying baby products, we should be advertising those products where moms and dads attend. So places where those types of people are going to be. Okay, you're not going to want to advertise baby products at a school or at a high school or even a university. Okay, because you're not going to find too many babies there. Right, but if we had to advertise baby products at a creche, that would make more sense because now we've targeted the marketing. See, that's a strategy. Yeah? Right, so target the specific markets. Next one, in terms of strategy, customer service and support. That's another strategy. How is that a strategy?
Because it would make the customer want to buy the product.
Good. So treating the customer correctly, providing the customer with sufficient service, supporting them, that creates a good environment in terms of a business that's operating positively. So if a business has a strategy of pleasing the customer, making the customer happy, making sure the customer gets what they want, and they have support as well, automatically the product is going to be viewed as being positive. Okay, all good. Right, and this is what we're trying to establish, is the strategy around the product. Do you agree products that have good after-sales service are good products? So for example, if you never had to, previously you damaged your phone and the phone had to go in for repairs. Let's assume that that company didn't want to repair your phone. Would you have been a happy or sad customer?
Sad.
Very sad. And in terms of customer service, not very good. In terms of support, non-existent. Right, so if they're trying to sell this product, and this product is being sold with bad service and no support.
Not likely to choose that product.
Exactly. No one's likely to buy the product. That's 100% correct. Number 3, providing as much information to customers as possible. Information to customers. That's very powerful because if the customer knows more about the product, they can make their own decision. And if the product's good enough, the customer should purchase it depending on their preference, okay, their taste. The last one is using social media. That's another strategy. Social media. I'm actually quite impressed that the textbook spoke about something so relevant because social media hasn't been around for that long. It was created in the 2000s. And now social media has really blown up. It's massive. The textbook talks about Twitter, they talk about LinkedIn, they talk about Facebook. And they say enterprises need to manage those platforms in order to allow the business to make more accurate decisions regarding products that consumers are wanting to satisfy their needs and wants.
Makes sense.
So that's a strategy. Social media is going to give you information, and social media will tell you what's popular. Last bit here is just a discussion about why is product so important. So of all the 4 Ps, why do you think this one is the most important?
Because it's the product that they're buying. They're not going to buy the product if it's a bad quality. You're not going to have to do any marketing if people aren't buying the product.
Exactly. So do you agree the product is actually what satisfies the needs and wants?
Yeah.
That's the key. So needs/wants are satisfied by products or services, but that's what we're looking at. Okay, so the only way we're going to be able to satisfy those needs and wants is if we're offering a good product, if we're offering a quality product. That's what they described here. So the research that they've conducted discovered the following. If the product does not meet customer expectations as discovered by market research regarding quality, durability, performance, and appearance, no matter how low the price is, customers will not buy the products. That's very important. So why is product so important? Needs and wants are satisfied. NB, check A, quality, B, durability, C, performance, and D, appearance. So if you want to know what makes a good product that has quality, durability, performance, and appearance, if it meets all four of those criteria in terms of ranking very high, remember, nothing is perfect. So you're never going to find a perfect product that lasts forever, that's of the highest quality, that performs well, and that just looks nice, right, in terms of products, because products always change and develop. But as we develop as a business as well, we need to always keep those four things at the forefront of our marketing strategy. Okay, so we talk about mobile phones. The two biggest manufacturers in the world, Apple and Samsung and Apple. Okay, if they were combined, then you could have a company like that. But anyway, okay, so do you agree? We look at Apple. Quality? Yes. Do the products last? Are they durable? Yes. Phones nowadays are more durable than the past. Why? Because most of them are water and dust and proof and all of that. So now obviously those phones are more durable. Do those phones perform better than before? Yes. They're capable of doing a lot more now than phones used to in the past. Do the phones look nice? How would you describe the appearance? Very good or not?
Yeah, okay.
Very good. So now, do you see how a product like Samsung and Apple can create something that's so valuable because they meet the four criteria in relation to marketing strategy? Right, so are the marketers at Apple going to have a hard time promoting the products? Not at all. Marketing Apple products is probably the easiest thing to do on the planet. Why?
Everyone knows something.
Because quality is good, durability is good, performance is good, appearance is good. There's your four categories in terms of what makes the product so important. Right, so that product we know is important because it has all four characteristics. And because they have all four characteristics, it's so easy to market and advertise those products because the strategy is self-explanatory. It's literally the product is the marketing. The product is everything. You just need to tell people about the product and the product sells itself. Next bit, still related to the product. Number 2. Well, let me ask you this. What else would you look at in terms of products? So far, we've looked at quality, durability, performance, appearance. We've looked at why the marketing mix is so important for a product. What else would you have to look at or consider?
Why the products are important and the quality of the product. Oh no, we've discussed
Yeah,
that.
we've looked at that.
I'm not sure.
The unique selling point.
Yeah.
USP.
Makes sense.
So why would someone buy Apple over Samsung? Or why would someone buy Samsung over Apple? Both have quality, durability, performance, and appearance.
I think that's just preference.
Well, it could be. That could come up later on when we look at other intangible attributes. Okay, because now you're looking more at the consumer rather than the supplier.
Yeah.
Remember, here I'm focusing on the product. So the product is the key. The textbook here talks about USPs, and they've given some examples. Domino's pizzas. What makes Domino pizza different from any of the other pizza manufacturers? They talk about delivery. Okay. They said it arrives in 30 minutes or it's free. That's what they use. So I think Debonair's used to do that. Now they don't.
Okay.
Like before, they used to have those that hot dots. I don't know if you remember those boxes. Actually came with like a dot, and the dot was I think red. Red meant that the pizza was hot, and if that dot changed color to black, and let's say you called Debonair's and you placed an order, and then they're going to deliver to your house, and if they come late, that dot wasn't red. Red meant it was hot, like fresh.
Then that's still fun.
And then you would get the pizza for free. Yeah. So here, Domino's in this textbook, obviously Domino's must be quite big in the UK, but they've used this as an example. Okay, so I'm just trying to relate that to a company that used to do that now. I can't remember seeing.
Domino's isn't that big, yeah.
Yeah, they're still very new, but Debonair's has been around for a long time. I just don't recall seeing those hot or not dots anymore. I think that has kind of faded away. Right, the second is Dyson vacuum cleaners. So even a vacuum cleaner needs a specific, unique selling point. See, that's what makes a product unique. And that's the key. So do you agree, in the world, right, if you're just like everybody else, are you going to stand out? No. Right, and that's what you need to do as well with a product. Because anyone can make a pizza. Yeah. Anyone can make a vacuum cleaner.
What's the difference?
Exactly. What makes that vacuum cleaner special? What makes that pizza special? That's important. And that's what the USP is. Right, so if you can understand what the USP is, then you've covered that point well. Is there a benefit for having a USP? What do you think?
Yeah.
What benefits?
Competition or competitiveness will be easier.
Yes, it'll be easier to compete.
Yeah.
Good. What else?
Maybe customer loyalty.
Yes. And price. Good. So do you agree if you have a USP, you can actually charge a higher price because you're offering something different that no one else offers?
People won't be so quick to compare.
Exactly, because it's something special, it's something different. Right? And people like things that are different, that aren't normal, mainstream. Okay, still related to the products. Number 3, tangible and intangible attributes. If something is tangible, what does that refer to? Correct. It's a physical item like the pencil box. Okay. If it's intangible, you can't. So how does that affect the product? Which are better to sell?
Tangible.
Good. Why?
Because people can see what they're going to get.
Exactly. So tangible products are easier to sell or market because they're physical. Physical products are always easier to sell than products that aren't physical. So things, for example, insurance. Let's say we have to take out car insurance. Is that a physical product?
No.
Definitely not. It's just a contract. Right, it's very difficult to sell something that you can't see. It's easy to say, well, have a look at this. Here's the product, do you like it or not? Okay. Certain customers will, certain customers won't, but it's a physical product. That makes it easier.
Test it.
Yeah, you could possibly test it if you want to. You could use it. You could see what it does, etc., etc. But with something intangible like insurance, you can't actually test it,
No.
right? Unless you go purposely crash into something and then see if the insurance pays out. But that would be pointless. Yeah, then that's it wouldn't meet the utility in terms of creating value for the consumer. Right. So physical products, brackets, have certain attributes, right? And they talk about features here, and they talk about a car. So what color is the car? How big is the size of the engine? That was the example they mentioned here. Physical products, I'm going to write down features / characteristics. Right, what does the product actually offer? That's important. Okay, 4. Products and brands. So the brands. What is a brand?
The brand.
It's the logo. It's the unseen quality or benefit because of the reputation / social value. That's brand. Right, so good brands have a lot of social capital or value. Right, brands that are luxury products are seen as being worth more because of their reputation. Number 5. Are you keeping up?
No.
Okay, sorry, going too quickly. Let's slow down a bit. Okay, maybe while you're writing, I'll just read another example here. They said, consumer decisions are not always easy to weigh up or explain, which makes market research less accurate. Some customers prefer luxury products over normal products. Managers should try to understand what the key attributes or features are. See, that's the key. Right, so what makes the product special? What differentiates the product from something else? Meeting customers' intangible expectations for a product is the most commonly way of building an effective brand. Right, so do you agree? Apple has done it well. Why?
They're unique.
Because Apple has focused more on something intangible. Like they focus more on design. Right, so design is what they focus on. Because when Steve Jobs had first created the company, that was his focus. Steve Jobs focused on
brand.
Disrupting that industry. So creating computers that were much, much, much better than what the existing computers were. I don't know if you've seen any of those old computers. It might have been before you were born, but where they had those big screens, like, or maybe even at school, you might remember maybe using them when you were at Waterstone. Where, I mean, you never had a screen that was flat. They just didn't exist. Screens were these big things, like massive tubes. Okay, now you don't have any of that. Why? Because the technology has changed. The technology has improved. So luxury products versus normal. Again, that's looking at attributes. Luxury products are luxury because they have either more features, more capability, more value offered, or they just have a better brand.
Yeah. Versus represents the quality.
Exactly. Quality could definitely be a consideration when looking at one brand versus another.
Okay.
Ready?
Yeah.
Okay, you've got the brand part. Okay, next part, product positioning. Product positioning is actually quite an interesting marketing strategy that relates to the product. If I'm looking at a product and I'm wanting to sell the product, do you agree we could position the product in a specific market? Does that make sense? They often call these things like niches, a niche product. A niche product means it's positioned in a very specific way. Earlier, I remember you talking about Adidas and how they've changed. They've become more mainstream, more fashionable, exactly. So do you agree that's product positioning? Right, before maybe they were just all sports. And now they've positioned the product differently. So they might have brought out different lines of clothing, maybe they brought out different items that can be purchased, and they've looked at that as being a positioning of their product or their brand. So now you have a perception that's different to maybe 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 20 years ago. Right, and what does that focus on? Focuses on how they positioned or how they created a niche for that specific product. All products are in a niche, but they're all in either a very small niche or very big niche. Obviously, as a business, you would want an opportunity to work in a company where the niche is very small, because that provides the business more opportunity to grow with less competitors. Examples here, product positioning. Okay, let's use this example actually, because it's so relevant. I just want to cover up, can I use something to cover this table up? Let's see if this is big enough. Yeah, kind of, it's fine. We'll just use the page to cover half of it.
What were you saying now about the Adidas? I just want to write it down.
They positioned themselves differently to take advantage of other markets. Yeah, I'm just using an example that you mentioned previously. Positioning their brand or positioning the brand in a way that attracted more business because now they've grown their sales. Right? They've positioned their product in a very specific way that allows them to target a specific market or allows them to market more effectively. Because remember, we're focusing on marketing. Marketing is looking at buying and selling goods and the communication that is required to sell the goods. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So have a look at the example here in the textbook. We've got Coca-Cola and we've got Pepsi, two rivals in the market. Do you agree? So now yeah, just that bit. So what product? Who would you say this first bit targets?
What do you mean?
Normal Coca-Cola and normal Pepsi. Who does that target?
Young people.
Young people, possibly. Okay. Then we have Coca-Cola C2 and Pepsi Max. Okay, this would be Coca-Cola and Pepsi Max. Max doesn't have any sugar.
So maybe people with diabetes.
Exactly. See, health conscious people. People that can't consume too much sugar. So now have they positioned their brand? Yeah. So
to attract the most possible customers.
Exactly. So that's what you're trying to look at here, is the positioning. So companies that have a product can alter and change their product in order to attract more consumers, because you're positioning the product in a specific way. It's the same like what you mentioned with Adidas. Adidas positioning their brand in a different way that made it more attractive for people to buy the clothes for other purposes, not only for sports. And that's what we're trying to say here. And if you look at the other one, Diet Coke and Diet Pepsi, and then you've got Coca-Cola Zero and Pepsi One. Okay, obviously things that have like almost zero sugar. And Diet Coke and Diet Pepsi, again, targeting a specific niche.
Yeah.
That's the key. Right, so positioning is looking at how do we actually put our product in the market? What is the strategy? If the strategy is to go more health conscious, okay, we're going to have to then make products that are more green or that are less fattening, or products that are more consumer friendly, right? And that's why Coca-Cola brought out all those other variants. I'm even thinking now of that new one, that green tin. You've probably seen it, right?
Yeah.
The Coca-Cola green tin. It has some fancy, I don't even know what they call it. It's like a plant extract or something. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about. Yeah, but that green tin that they came out recently from Coca-Cola was apparently like a healthy variant, a health variant of Coca-Cola. Because Coca-Cola is very unhealthy. If you're drinking a lot of soft drinks, Coca-Cola or Pepsi, it doesn't matter what it is. That's drinking sugar. It's very unhealthy. So that's why they've brought out products that can be positioned in the market in a specific way that can derive the most benefit. That's all it is.
What do you mostly drink with your food?
Water, soft drinks, what else? Fruit juice.
What did you have for lunch?
That was burger and soft drinks, so not very healthy, but it's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, but so yeah, and water. I think you drink a lot of that.
Yeah, that is sparkling water.
Yeah, water is very healthy, so I drink a lot of water as well. Soft drinks, some of it, and then depending on like if it's at a restaurant or something, then maybe like wine or something, or coffee, tea, that type of stuff. So yeah, okay. Next bit. Okay, we've covered that one. Okay, we can move this down again. Okay, great. We're going to need another page. We're running out of space here. 6. Next one is product lifecycle. Okay, so if I'm talking about life cycle, think about life. We go through life, we start out as a baby, then we become a toddler, we become a teen or young child, and then teen, and then adult eventually.
Yeah.
Okay, and then obviously later stages. Okay. If I'm looking at the product life cycle, same thing applies.
Is this a new point?
It's just separate to what we covered. So number 6.
Okay.
What do you think the product life cycle is going to be looking at?
When it's in trend and when it's not. And
Almost, that's a good way of looking at it. So let me ask you this. Do all products come out perfect?
Last forever as well.
No. Those products, when they come out, they're brand new.
Yeah.
And then they become more developed and more sophisticated.
Yeah.
So for example, so did we have iPads before? No, we didn't.
No.
The first product that actually came out was an iPod.
Yeah.
That was the first actual big mainstream consumer product that Steve Jobs' company had launched, was the iPod. Now today, do we have iPods? No, we don't, because the iPad, the iPhone, all the products that are currently existing today can all play music.
Yeah.
So there's no need to have a separate device that only plays music. It's not relevant today. So that's what they're looking at here in product life cycle. Even products are born and someday die. Okay, perfect example, the iPod. I haven't seen an iPod for ages. I think they still sell them, but I don't know how popular they are. Yeah, but the thing is, the product life cycle is reaching the end.
Yeah.
Okay, so initially when it first came out, it was brilliant because before people used to have CD players, and they used to have what was the other thing that with music? CD players, videos, yeah, DVD players, that type of thing. And then it went digital, and now we have iPod. Right, and then see the product life cycle changes and it moves, and now it has almost died. Right,
did you say every product?
Even products. Yeah, maybe I should say just say products. Products are born and someday die. That's fine. Okay, to read what's in the textbook, here they say, products are launched and products go through updates. The product portfolio analysis makes decisions based on the existing models and models that will come out in the future because of updates. See, that's key. They talk about cars here. That's also another good way of looking at of computers. Think about technology, computers, cars, computers slash cars slash technology. Products are launched and they develop and update, and they get developed. Oh, and they get updated. Let's keep it simple. Right, and that's looking at product life cycle. So when you first bring out a product, it's still new. It's in its infancy. Over time, those products can evolve and they can change. So now the iPod was probably developed into something like the iPhone, and then the iPhone into the iPad. Right, because that's just how technology changes and how technology adapts. In the textbook, they talk about cars, different models of cars. So you have one model of car, it might be the smaller model, and then they evolve and they change it, and they develop it, and they make it more maybe premium or more higher end, depending on what we're trying to achieve. Okay, because remember, don't lose the focus here. What is the focus? Marketing strategy. Okay, they do describe the life cycle, so I think this is important to note. I'm going to highlight the word life cycle. Stage 1 equals introduction. Okay, because this is looking at strategy. So if you're launching a new product, what are you going to have? You're going to have the introduction / launch.
How many stages are there?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Stage 1, introduction or launch. Stage 2, growth. Stage 3, maturity / saturation. That's the other word they use here to describe this. Maturity. Stage 4. Oh, sorry, it's actually 4 stages, not 5. I counted this bolded word here as 1 stage. Yeah, it's only 4. Decline. That's the last stage. And that's it. 4 stages for any product. So products get launched, products then grow, they gain popularity. At some point in time, the market becomes mature. Everybody's got them. Right, and then they become obsolete or they lose their appeal. And stage 4 is where we start declining. Right, because maybe something else comes out. That's why they talk about competition.
Yeah.
Okay, because if somebody brings out a better product, then there'll be a decline of that product or the other products. And that's the life cycle. I like this diagram here. Have a look at the sales. This might even be worthwhile drawing.
Yeah.
Product life cycle. Which has the fastest growth? The growth stage. Maturity is when we're kind of flat, and then decline is when we're decreasing. Introduction is very slow. People need to get to know the product. Once they get to know the product, then the product booms.
Can I draw that?
You want to draw it? Mm-hmm. Great. That just describes the stages of the product's life cycle. Yeah, so slow initial launch, very fast growth, then maturity, and then finally decline. Okay, next minutes. they talk about the uses of the product lifecycle. We've actually discussed this. Do you agree that products are going to be used at different stages? Right, so you might be using a product when it first launches. Is that product going to be very useful? Probably not, because that product still needs to grow and mature. So products always develop. Here they talk about the life cycle of a model before it was replaced in 2016. Again, it was the Mini Countryman car. You've probably seen those Minis around, hey? Those new Minis, it's actually BMW. BMW manufactures the Mini Cooper. So those Minis that are being manufactured, Mini was relaunched in 2014. So I don't know if you ever saw what those old Minis used to look like.
Probably not.
Probably not. Or have you ever watched Mr. Bean?
I have.
You have?
I had a Mini.
That's a Mini.
Yeah.
Okay, so Mr. Bean used to drive a little Mini, and that's what the Minis used to look like. And then what did BMW do? So BMW actually bought over the company, and then they relaunched these new versions, exactly. And now they've reinvigorated this old brand.
Yeah.
Okay, so now in terms of product life cycle, what did they do?
Regenerated.
Basically, they've taken something that was declining
and
they brought it back to life.
By
updating it, exactly. Okay, perfect. Alright, so uses of the product life cycle we've looked at. Assisting with the planning of the marketing mix. That's something that we've been describing. Let's look at an example. They're giving you a nice big example here. Okay, wow. This is very good. This is definitely something you should put a note here. I'm going to put a big NB here. NB, page 258. Excellent summary covering the 4 stages and the 4 Ps. That's a really, really good summary. Right, so have a look at what they've given you here. They've given you price, promotion, place, and products. Remember, in chapter 18, we're only looking at product and price. This chapter actually comes later on, in 19. So you're not going to know too much about this yet, until we covered those other 2 points. But they've given you all of it here. Then they've given you introduction, growth, maturity, and decline. Right, so let's take an example of a product. What product do you want to look at?
Stationery.
Stationery. Okay, stationery might be difficult to...
A phone.
Okay, phone. Fine. So introduction. When the phone was introduced, so when that phone first came out, what was its price? High or low?
High.
High. Product, basic or advanced?
Basic.
Quite basic compared to the new phones that come out. Do you agree? So remember, when the phone first comes out, it's brand new. So it's definitely in demand. Everybody wanted to get their hands on that new product. So the price is normally quite high. But if they went with a strategy of taking market share, they could have launched the product at a lower price. Okay, so see, that's the strategy. So do I go with high price or low price? The product is either going to be basic or it's going to be more advanced. Normally when products are launched in the introduction stage, they're very basic. And then they get better and better and better. And that's what they're showing you here. Right, so let's talk about like iPhone when it first came out. High price because it's always been premium, okay? But it was very basic compared to what the phones are like now. Right, now obviously growth after a few years, things get better. Will the price come down or will the price rise? Or will it stay the same? It should rise because new technology is going to come into it. New developments, exactly. Okay. Maturity is when competition is going to be fierce. Right, so now lots and lots of people. Yeah, so Samsung, other brands. So what other brands? Sony, Nokia, even we talk about BlackBerry from the past. What other big brands? LG. What other big brands can you think of? Other brands. Mention Sony, Motorola maybe. Okay, but you kind of get the picture. So lots of competition because everybody wants to compete and improve. And then the maturity is quite quite high, and then things start to decline. Right. Okay, perfect. Identifying how cash flow might depend on the product life cycle. Cash flow is always an important thing to discuss, so I think it's worthwhile mentioning that here. Product life cycle is affected by the product's cash flow. So would you want a product that sells very, very well? Yes. What is that going to do to the cash flow? Increase the cash flow. If the business has more cash flow, can the business then develop and grow? Yes. So one of the most important factors to move from one area to another is the cash flow. Okay, the money management, the finance, the resources, the capital. So if a business wants to move from introduction to growth to maturity to decline, okay, to go through the process, the best way to grow quickly is to manage the cash flow. And that's why they've said here, identifying cash flow might depend on the product's life cycle. Because if we're in the introduction phase, is there going to be lots of cash flow? Not in the introduction phase, because it's a new product. Do you agree? Not everybody's going to want to buy it. When we're growing, then cash flow starts to improve. That's why companies go from growth to maturity, because they have more resources and they have more capability to develop more products. Here's a nice example, Nokia. Okay.
Oh, we're not going to write anything on here.
We are. We can mention, I just want to look at the example before we write down the points. So if I look at Nokia, how many years are they analyzing here? 2009 to 2013. So that's 4 years. Describe what happened to Nokia headset sales by region. Okay, don't worry too much about the color coding. Just look at the overall total. So we've got Northern America, Greater China, Europe, Middle East, Asia Pacific, Latin America. Okay, so basically the entire world is there. How would you describe this? What happened? 2009? What phase are we in?
Growth.
Probably growth. Okay, because Nokia's been around for longer than that. Okay, so growth in 2009 up until when?
Until
probably
2010.
2010. Yeah, I'd agree with that. Then a period of maturity. Would you agree? Okay, so from 2010 to 2011, you'd probably say maturity. And then what started happening?
Growth.
The decline. The decline started.
There's a growth and then decline.
Yeah, a little bit of growth and then things started going down. But if you look at the trend, it's up and then down. Right, so if I look at this, product A and B, A goes up, down, B goes up, down, C goes up, down, D goes up, down. Okay, what's happening? It's a cycle. Yeah, so companies need to always adapt and change, and products need to be manufactured. Have a look at those shoes. When do you think this photograph was taken?
Long ago.
How long ago?
I don't know.
I also don't know. But if you had to ask maybe your mom or your grand, they'll probably know exactly when. But like nowadays, you don't see heels that look like that with those like massive, I don't know what you call them, soles. Yeah. Okay. Nowadays, it's more like thinner soles, and it looks more like yes, exactly. Not as like chunky. that's a nice way of describing it. Okay, that's good. Okay, but do you agree? Even fashion changes, and that's what they're looking at here, product life cycle. Okay, so let's just summarize what they've given you here. Cash flow is vital to the business for survival. That's the most thing. So NV, cash flow must be positive. Right, if cash flow is not positive, you're not going to progress. You're not going to go from introduction to growth to maturity. Right, the reason why companies decline is because there's a limit to the growth that they can experience. A company can never grow and grow forever. Even big companies at some point in time reach maturity. It's just how it works. They said cash flow is negative during the development of the products because costs are high. See? That's important. So, cash flow at the beginning. Cash flow at the start is negative, bracket limited growth. Cash flow during growth and maturity is positive. And then cash flow during decline could be negative. Not necessarily, but possibly. Okay, let's look at here. Let's talk about introduction, development cost, maturity phase, positive cash flow. It's all mentioned here. Right, identifying the need for a balanced product portfolio. That's important. Why? Because do you agree? So for example, if we only made these shoes and if we only made these phones, can we adapt to the changing markets? No, you can't. So the last bit over here, looking at product life cycle, is companies or businesses launch products at different times. So for example, did they launch all the products at once? No. It always comes out in stages, exactly. Because companies want those products to grow, reach maturity, decline. And then they want a new product to come out, to grow, maturity, decline. Why do you think every year we have a new model cell phone?
Because everyone's already bought that one.
Exactly. See, it's the process. Introduction, growth, maturity, start to decline, bring out the next phone. That's what they do. Okay, so it's very clever how they structure it in the cell phone industry. Because the cell phone industry looks at capitalizing on that decline rather than being negatively affected by it. So as soon as they start to decline, let's bring out a new model, and then they start growing again.
Yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, you mentioned some examples. So S9, that's being spoken about a lot in the media. Okay, that's Samsung's new product in terms of product life cycle.
Yeah.
Apple's probably going to come up with 11 soon, and that's going to be another introduction. Okay, introduction, growth, maturity, decline. Right, and that's what happens in the product life cycle. Okay, how are we doing with time? Are we okay?
It's already 22.
Oh,
we're only going to do an hour and a half. Eh?
Yeah. All right. So let's just wrap up this bit, and then we can call it a day. Okay. Product life cycle evaluation. I think that's the end. Okay. Let's see. This is new. Elasticity of demand.
Yeah.
Economics in business. All right. A little bit of overlap. So let's just wrap up this last bit. Just to add here, products need to be evaluated, and innovation can take place to expand / grow. That's important. Okay, and that's what we've been talking about. Right, for example, these shoes were fashionable at one point in time. I mean, everybody would have these massive, like, chunky heels. Okay, but nowadays you don't see them. But before, who knows, given maybe 5-10 years, this might come back into fashion. You never know. Okay, we don't know what's going to happen in that industry. Right, but that's what they're talking about here. They're saying that product life cycles need to be evaluated, and if they're evaluated, we can then decide on what can we create for the consumer. And then the last bit is just the portfolio. So when looking at products, there's going to be a portfolio of products. Products are going to be grouped into categories. So we'll have a line of shoes, we'll have a line of brands, okay, or types of products. So product portfolios are groupings of similar products at similar life cycles. Okay, and that's the portfolio. So a portfolio of products. So for example, if we owned Apple and Samsung, we could categorize the Apple 10 and the S9 in the same category as a portfolio of a product. All right, and then we would have different portfolios. We'd have one for the iPads, we'd have one for the tablets, we'd have one for the PCs and the Macs and all of that. Okay. And then that wraps that up. Yes, and they just said, why is the marketing mix important? We know it's strategy. Okay, if we have the product, the price, the place, and the promotion, that creates an effective marketing strategy. Right. We won't cover the next bit, which is price elasticity of demand. That's economics, and they cover quite a bit of it here, I must say. Wow. This actually looks like a great summary or revision of your economics. Okay, 4 pages of economics. Okay, let's save that.
Can we just sorry the last
Yeah, no problem. I spelled that wrong. Products. D-U-C. Yeah, I see the work program does stress this quite a bit. They've given you a lot of detail here about the 4 P's and the 4 C's. They've even given it here as a table, and they've even looked at the customer relationship management. So definitely an important section. 4 P's is always important. When did you cover 4 P's? Was it in business last year? Okay, so same content, just maybe a bit more detail.
Yeah, it's way more detail.
Perfect. Right, yeah, so we've actually covered a lot so far. You are ready to do assignment 1 and assignment 2 of business, and the same thing for economics. So if you have a chance, try to do that. I think you've submitted both 1 and 1 for both.
Only one on business.
For business. Okay, so economics you haven't submitted, and then 2 you
I
haven't
haven't
started.
done economics.
You haven't done 1 yet, okay. Right, so see if you have like maybe an hour in the week to try look at it and then see how that goes. Yeah. Okay, but yeah, well done. Did you get what you needed?
Yeah, I did, thank you.
Perfect.